Hey everybody, Todd here, and welcome back to another Wellness Talks brief. Today I'm just going to answer another question that comes up often outside of session, when I'm bumping into people in the public, when I'm talking with friends and family, and that is, how do I know that I need to get a little extra help when it comes to anxiety, depression, pain management, chronic health issues? How do I know? What's the threshold? When should I seek out mental health services? This is a tricky question, because how do we gauge? There have definitely been times in our life where things come at us, a whole bunch of different challenges. It always seems to show up in at least threes, right? There was always a joke when I was a kid that it always happens in threes. It seems to be somewhat true. So it's either rain or shine. We're getting a whole lot of problems at once, or we're able to just move through without anything at all. So I'd ask you to just look at a couple things. Am I under just an extreme amount of stress? And if so, how long? How long can I put up with this? How long can I engage with this? Especially with a situation like COVID-19 or a chronic health issue, where it's something that's going to stay, that's hit, and it's going to stay for a while. Well, other signs that you could begin to look for is not being able to fall asleep very well, not eating like you used to, losing weight, gaining extra weight because we're doing a behavior to actually make ourselves feel better. We're eating, we're shopping, we're constantly going down social media, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. We're playing around on social media because we're trying to escape, to avoid, or to control the emotional states, the mental states that are going on inside of us. If you begin to notice that these types of behaviors are impacting what matters to you the most, are getting in the way of things that are important to you, your personal values, well, then that may be a good reason to go in and see somebody. If you're dealing with something more long-term, again, it comes down to when your coping mechanisms, when your skills are no longer producing the outcomes. They're short-term, and if it's a short-term situation, then a short-term solution, a short-term coping mechanism is probably just enough to get us through. And a lot of times when you come in to work with someone like myself, I'm going to give you some other skills so we can broaden your toolbox so you can work your way through this. In other words, it's kind of like an emotional or a mental first aid kit. We can use these things, but if we start to rely on them, they begin to lose their effectiveness over time. So there's a lot of different factors, and it really just comes down to personal choice. If you feel like, hey, I would like to just get a little extra coaching, a little extra guidance, I would like to work on, I'm noticing I fall into this behavior. Or you ask yourself this question, why do I always do that? It doesn't end well. Well, that's a good sign that you're ready. And there is something called a Readiness Scale, and it basically is a good way to see, am I not even thinking about this being an issue? Am I pre-contemplating? Am I starting to think that maybe there might be a problem here? Am I doing some research? Now I'm actually contemplating, I think this might be something that I need to go work on, and then there's action. So we move from the contemplation phase into an action phase. So that's something as a therapist I'm actually trying to screen for when a person shows up. Chances are, though, when you've come through my door and you're sitting here across from me on my couch, that you're pretty much in that either contemplation or you're in that ready to do something about it stage. So it's partly up to you to determine whether or not that's where you are. Now, another indicator is, am I having a place in my life where I keep falling into the same mistake over and over and over again? I would call this a hopeless behavioral loop or hopeless cycle. We keep doing the same exact thing, we keep getting the same result, and yet we keep thinking that somehow by doing this, I'm going to get a different that. I'm going to get a different outcome. These are some of my favorites to actually help people work their way through. It's usually an implicit or an unconscious rule or tool or idea or notion running in the background, which you may not even be 100% aware of. And a lot of times, once you see that this is running in the background, and you can then accept the different physical sensations that come with that rule, that tool, that belief, that memory, then all of a sudden a new pathway opens up for you, and you don't even need the coping tools. You're able to then move towards and move in that direction, and you gain levels of competence, confidence, belonging, connection, direction, purpose. You're able to move or pivot in that direction and go after it. And then slowly you start to make yourself a little bit better. And this issue isn't so much an issue as a guiding point for when I'm in pain with this. Oh, that's right, I have to remember, this is probably me doing that thing that I always do, and this is actually what matters more. And instead of doing these quick escape and coping mechanisms, I'm just going to shift, accept that there's going to be a certain level of discomfort. I'm going to lean into that, press into that, and move off in that direction. Oftentimes when I'm working with folks, if it's a behavioral component like this, or a rule or a tool that's running in the background, 6, 8, 12 sessions maybe, maximum, and I see a quick adjustment. And another way I like to think about this is you're out there, you're going through life, and you're just sailing, doing your thing, and then all of a sudden there's extra pressure, and all of a sudden you start to find that you're on a downward trajectory, and you're like, if I keep doing this, I don't see this being a good long-term plan for me. And so part of it is coming in to work with somebody is just getting a little bit of assistance to look at things and correct the flight path so that now you're moving off in a direction that ends up being better for you overall. So is there a quick checklist of I need to go see somebody? Well, if it's completely disrupting your life, if it's completely disrupting the communication pattern with your spouse, with your partner, with a friend, with your family, if it's getting in the way of completing a project, and that you keep trying the same thing and you keep getting the same answer, you keep getting the same result, that's probably a good time to pick up the phone, go online, find somebody, and get in to work with them. Now, who you want to work with, I'll answer that in a different video. But this is more of the how do I know? And it really just comes down to, is it disrupting your life? Is it something that's been going on for quite some time, at least 6 months, maybe longer? Or do you just want to be preventive? So there are a lot of people who come in here who just want to get out in front of it. They see this issue. It's been causing problems the last 5, 10, 15 years, their whole life. And they finally want to do something just to, what is this? Why does this keep getting in the way? That would be a great reason to get in. There is a slight amount of stigma when it comes to going in. There's always I shouldn't need somebody else's help in order to deal with this memory, this thought, this behavioral process. But if that's the case, then we wouldn't exist. And you wouldn't say that when it comes to going to see your doctor. If you cut yourself, and you can use a Band-Aid, by all means use a Band-Aid, but there are times when that cut's just a little bit too deep. And would you use that same argument? I can't believe I actually have to rely on somebody else to stitch up my finger. It applies to mental health just the same. If you broke a bone, you're not just going to say to yourself, I should be able to walk this off. You're going to go and find somebody to work with. There's less of a stigma to go get that kind of help. I'd like to see someday when it comes to mental health and behavioral health that we have the same attitude. I just need to go see somebody in order to work on this. So just take into consideration what I've said here. And of course, you can always have a conversation with your doctor, and you can always reach out. A lot of therapists like myself offer a 5, 10, 15-minute free consultation just to say, hey, this is something I will be able to address, or maybe you should speak with your doc first and then come in, or hey, why don't you come in? This sounds like something that we should address now, because if we don't get to it now, I can see this causing further problems down the road. Especially when it comes to anxiety. Anxiety left unchecked over time starts to become OCD-like tendencies. We try to control everything, or we procrastinate like crazy, and it's starting to have an actual effect on the overall quality of our life. That's a good indicator that maybe it's time to make an appointment. So I hope this video helps you if you're trying to make a decision as to whether or not you would like to seek out some help. And of course, you can always reach out to me. I'll do my best to point you in the right direction. And there are a lot of wonderful resources online to help you find somebody to work specifically with whatever it is you might be working on. And until the next time, may you be well. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you got something useful out of it. If you did get something useful out of this, can you do me a favor? and just click the like button below. When you do that, you're giving me some very valuable feedback as to this was truly something that was useful and that I should make more videos like this. I hope that you found something valuable here, even if it was just a little bit, because one of my main goals is just trying to make your life 1% better now than it was at the beginning of this video. And of course, as always, if you like what you saw here, please feel free to subscribe.